and
But
mother
but
and father and tell them,
I bought you a garter belt, and
huh?
I bought you a garter belt for your birthday.
You did?
You bought me
A garter belt
a garter belt when?
and a see-through nightie.
Huh?
I'm kidding.
You didn't buy me anything like that. There's certain things that you that you
Well,
have um, gone through that nobody else's business but yours.
yeah, but this is 1905. It was a completely different time. Who taught you? Where'd you learn about it? Where'd you learn about sex?
When
Your
did I?
sisters? You had two older sisters, right?
And nobody told me I had a girlfriend up there in Catskill.
Right.
She was married to the, I forget, her husband was a very good-looking man, and he had something to do with running the town. He had a good job, and she and she married him, my friend.
What was her name?
She knew him, and
Do you
they
remember
got
her?
married.
Do you remember her name?
Huh?
Do you remember her name?
The name?
Yeah.
Not after all these years.
Okay. So they got married.
They got married, and I didn't know anything much about sex and marriage. I knew a little, but not much. And she was married to this man, and we were friends. And we'd sit and talk to each other, and he used to beat her up. Yeah. He was a very handsome man, but he had a good job, and he used to beat her up. They got married, still beat her up. She showed me in her arms and where, she got hurt, but she still lived with him. As far as I know, I left town after a while, and we wrote to each other, and she never had any children. Her mother died, and then I guess she must have gone back with him to live, and whether he beat her up after that, I don't know. Because we used to write, but we didn't write anything about sex in the letters. And then after a while, one of you stopped writing, and that's the end of it. And as far as I know, she's not around anymore. But when she was, and I went up in Catskill before I was married, and we used to get together. We were friends. Very nice girl. You like my nails?
Very nice.
Huh?
Yeah.
So who's your first boyfriend?
Huh?
How old were you when you had your first boyfriend?
When I met my first boyfriend, oh, I knew a fellow that I met in Albany that used to come down to Catskill,
That's the first one?
and
You didn't have boyfriends when you were like 11,
he was
12 years old?
12 years old.
No?
No.
13, 14?
Oh, and I don't remember exactly how old I was when we were going to Albany.
Okay. Do you remember when you hit puberty?
But there were times when I was working and I didn't have a boyfriend, and I just worked and made money and gave the money to my mother and father.
Do you remember going through puberty? How old were you?
Huh?
Do you remember going through puberty?
With who? I can't.
Do you remember your first period?
The first,
Your first menstruation?
my first menstruation?
Yeah.
Well, I remember it vaguely.
How old were you?
How old was I? I don't remember how old I was. You usually have that um, when you're teens.
Did you know it was happening?
Huh?
Did you know it was happening? Did anybody warn you? Anybody tell
No,
you?
I didn't know what it was. My friend told me.
Your friend? The same friend who got beat up?
Yeah.
Same friend?
Her. Yeah.
You knew her a long
Sure,
time.
we were friends, and we tell each other things.
And what'd she tell you?
Well, she told me that he better beat her up.
No, what'd she tell you
Well, I
about?
know that they had to have sex. I wasn't going to ask her about that. They
What
were
did-
married.
What did she tell you about your period?
About what?
What did she tell you when you had your first period?
When I had the first baby.
Period.
When I don't know. She told me just that it's a natural thing to have, and I'm going to have it every month. That's all.
And that's it. And when was the last time you had it?
When was the last time I had it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not important after a while.
So,
It's important if you want to get pregnant or you don't want to get pregnant.
right. Oh, the reason I'm asking you is because you had a problem getting pregnant, correct?
For me,
Yes.
yes, I didn't get pregnant right away.
Okay.
I got pregnant
So how did you
9 years.
How did you finally get pregnant?
It just happened.
Nothing.
We were thinking about adopting a child. Ed and I lived very well together, and we didn't say, oh, we haven't got a child, and every day and something like that, and we don't have a child. We enjoyed each other. We enjoyed making love to each other. We enjoyed living together and eating together and working together. So that's how you get along well, when you enjoy these things together. It's very important.
So.
So when I first didn't get pregnant, then I knew I was pregnant. When I first didn't get unwell, I knew I was pregnant.
And
Because,
when did you realize that?
huh?
My mom said that you realized that coming down from the Catskills. You went up to Terrace Hill House,
Yeah.
and on the way back you realized it.
Yeah, I came back with, I didn't get pregnant. I didn't get unwell. So when you're used to being, having your that area, in that area of time every month, and there comes a month that you don't get unwell, so you know that you're probably, in all probability, you're pregnant.
Right.
If a lot of women don't get unwell at the same time every month, or about the same time every month, or if they skip a month or two, then you don't know whether you're coming or going as far as that is concerned.
And what about you?
But I was very on time every month.
Okay.
And then, well, we just, I didn't get pregnant, but it didn't bother Abe. He could do whatever he wanted.
So.
You know all these things. You ought to know them. You're going keeping company with a girl.
Thank you. Yes, I know. I want to know about you specifically.
With what?
I want to know about you specifically.
Why?
I don't know. I have nothing else to do.
He has no life.
Well, I'll tell you. If you love one another and you expect to get married, you may have a different feeling than I have. But I have changed somewhat through the years. At one time I thought it was very important. And now it isn't so important because the times have changed. So if years ago, if anybody they got pregnant and they weren't married, even if they took care and didn't want to get pregnant, but they did anyway, which can happen, as you know. So it wasn't such a nice thing to do. It was, as far as other people were concerned. As far as that happened to the people that it happened to, it was very important. you wanted to live together, and you didn't want to have a baby. You didn't want to have a baby, so you had to take care of it.
So how has your opinion changed?
How was my opinion? It didn't matter to us.
Stop.
We were happy together. We lived several years together without me getting pregnant, and we didn't. We we both knew about it. We both felt that we wanted to have a child, but if it didn't happen, we weren't gonna. We were thinking. I was thinking I might go to. I did go to this friend of Abe's. It was. She used to. His wife used to be in that area
Adoption.
about not adopting, about getting pregnant.
Oh, about getting pregnant.
And I didn't get pregnant, so they were trying to fix me up, fix us up, so that we should have a child.
And
I mean, we were very, Abe and him, we were all good friends, and we still are.
Ben and Elizabeth.
Huh?
Ben and
Elizabeth.
So what finally happened? How did she help you?
Well, they would, they told me to go to some friend of theirs who was in that area. And she examined me and found that there was nothing wrong, that she could see. She examined Abe, and I don't know who examined Abe. He examined Abe.
Right.
Ben, Abe's friend. There was nothing wrong with Abe, but I just didn't conceive.
Right.
So when I was coming down in the car with my mother, we were up to Catskill. We stayed up there a few weeks, and then she was going to come down and stay with me. And I was supposed to get unwell, and I didn't. So we were in the car, I remember, and I said, I think I'm pregnant. And I expected Abe to jump up in the seat, but he didn't. He took it nonchalantly. Well, just didn't. And of course, my mother wanted me. I guess she never said anything about it, but I guess she wondered why I didn't get pregnant, and she knew that we wanted a child, but we didn't go around blabbing about it and thinking about it. Nothing else but that. We just lived on our own lives.
So you had the princess.
Huh?
You had the princess.
I had a what?
The princess.
A princess.
Debbie.
Yeah. We had a princess.
Debbie was a princess.
Debbie was the first princess, and Suzanne was the second princess.
The Wicked Witch.
Huh?
The Wicked Witch.
What did I wish?
The Wicked Witch.
Which is which?
The Wicked Witch.
The Wicked Witch?
That's my mom. Right?
Oh, don't say that. They were both very well loved. They loved their father. The father was good to them. Took them places. I used to play bridge, and he would take Debbie and Suzanne up to all over it. He knew New York up and down, which way to go and how to go and what to take, north, east, west, or south. But I never knew what north, east, south. And I drove a car. Oh, you want to see what do you call it?
Your driver's license? Yeah, go get your driver's license.
I love these little dolls, these little things there. These are, you can wash these, you can put them in the washing machine. Not this and not this, but these. And This is an old baby of mine, and my both kids love these. They and I could wash them. Debbie and Suzanne played with these when they were little. That's how old they are. With these things. This I washed. One of the kids got it dirty, so I washed it. There's little things, you know, there's certain things you like and you want to keep. I don't know what this fuss is from, but isn't that cute?
Where are the other ones from?
Yeah.
I don't know where they came from.
Where are the other ones from?
These?
Yeah. Don't they have names?
These I bought.
Don't they have names?
They have names? No, I didn't name them.
No?
When they were little, when the kids were little, I used to play with them, and I remember washing this and
Which one came from FAO Schwartz?
huh?
One of those came from FAO Schwartz, right?
What am I gonna what?
One of those came from FAO Schwartz?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know which one though. Suzanne may remember. But first Debbie played with them, and then Suzanne played with them, and you used to play with them, and Lenny used to play with them, and Peter used to play with them, and I used to play with them. But I don't play with them anymore, but I love them. And they mean so much to me, you see, because the kids love them. I had them for a long time. And then when the kids came, I still had them. But I didn't have them out. I just had them and I kept them because like you would keep an old dress or you have things that you kept that you had for years ago when you were a teenager. Are you still a teenager?
No.
And the things, you don't sit and play with them. I don't take these like this. I'm just showing them to you. But they mean something to me because my kids love them.
Well, speaking of toys, what kind of sex toys did you have?
What kind of sex life?
Sex toys.
X-rays?
Sex toys.
What's he saying?
Speaking of toys, what kind of sex toys did you have?
Sex toys?
Yes.
I don't think I had any.
Just Grandpa.
Well, I don't think I had sex toys. I had things from these things here long ago. These things I bought when I was working in A&S. You know how long ago that is?
60 years?
I didn't have them all out. I put them away, but I wouldn't give them away. And then my kids played with them, and then you used to play with them. Lenny used to play with them, and Peter played with them. So they're dear to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to leave them
What kind of...
when I get around to it. I'll put these back.
Okay, now what is the story about Ben telling Grandpa that he had to help with work around the house?
Ben, I don't know.
You don't remember that story?
I don't remember it at all. I can't remember Ben ever saying anything like that to
Oh.
Abe. They were very good friends,
Right.
but to say anything like that, I don't know. I don't remember.
All right, what about the story about you used to clean the house naked?
Naked.
All you used to wear was...
Huh?
You had no underwear on, and you used to wear a smock. And you used to go on your hands and knees and clean and wash the floor, and your whole rear end was showing.
And I heard
Your whole rear end was showing because you weren't wearing any clothes. You don't remember doing that? Are you going to deny that on video?
no,
You're going to deny that?
I,
That never happened.
I could have said it, I don't know.
You did it. You did it all the time.
I did it all the time.
Yeah, you just used to put a smock on. You had no clothes underneath.
I remember that.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
Yes, you
I
are.
never lie.
You never lie.
I don't lie. Why should I lie? If I said it, I would admit it.
You
But I
remember-
don't remember. Maybe I did. Maybe I just don't. I don't play with these. I just have them out because I love them. Because my kids love them. This is something I can't remember something about this. I think this is washable. I don't know. Something about it. I have something to tell you about everything. But I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting. This means something. This means something. That means something. That all means something. About forgetting. All these mean something in here. Some of these are old and some are not old. They're new. Not new, but a few years old. These things.
Okay, say goodbye. Tape's almost over.
Hmm?
Say goodbye.
Say goodbye?
Yeah.
Why?
Look into the camera and say goodbye.
I can't hear you.
Look into the camera, tell everybody you love them and say goodbye.
Everybody love what?
Tell everybody you love them.
Oh,
and
I
say
love
goodbye.
everybody. Goodbye. Is that what you want me to say?
No, I want you to say it for yourself.
Okay. You can. Oh.
Is that it?
Hmm?
Is that it? No more?
What do you want me to say? I don't have anything more to say. I said it all. I talked all day.
Say something in Yiddish.
Huh?
Say something in Yiddish.
In Yiddish? Ich liebe dir.
Which means?
I love you. Dear is you. I think I'm going to go to bed early.
Thank you.
Thank you for what?
For everything.
Don't get her sick.
Huh?
Don't get her sick. Don't get you sick.
Oh, you got a cold?
I kissed her in the lips.
I don't get cold so fast.
Good.
Your cold is better,
I don't know.
isn't it?
My throat hurts.
When?
I was the secretary. I did a little typing, you know, and he'd go over it. If I made a mistake, he'd cross it out and write it by hand. He was very nice. I was the only one he had an office.
Who was he?
Huh?
What did he do?
I don't remember. He had an office and he did some work
Okay.
for people. And he gave me, I think it was $100. No, I had to go to the bank. If you know how downtown is
Brooklyn?
in
Or Manhattan?
New York.
Manhattan.
It's, there's a lot of traffic and the banks are very crowded, and wherever you go, it's people. A lot of people that work down there you're doing uh, all different kinds of things. Now, I used to go, every week I'd go to the bank, and downtown, if you know what, the traffic is terrible down there. To cross the street, well, anyway, I had to go through all this traffic to get to the bank that he has, that he has his money in, and I'd have to take out money for him to go for the weekend. I think I used to get $100, and I went to the bank this morning, and I went, not this morning, but then this in the morning, and I gave him a check. All right, I wanted to take out money for him from the bank. I don't know how it was, but I was supposed to get $100 for him, for my boss to go away for the weekend. $100 I was supposed to get. So I made out the, the thing that you have to get the money out, give in the bank, and she gave me the $100, and I counted it over, and I had $110 made in the bank. Can you imagine anyone in the bank giving you $110 instead of $100? Well, this person did, and it was a man. I counted over 3 times. I got $110. I could have taken that money. I needed that money like I need $1,000 today. I could have used that $10 then. And I made about, I don't know, maybe $15, and I had to pay my board $8. See, so out of that $8, $7 that I had, I sent home $2 to my mother. And they were poor, they didn't have much money. They lived in Catskill. I showed you the place. They kept boarders in the summer. I told you about that. So, I had this $10 extra, and I wanted to keep it in the worst way, but I just didn't have the heart to do it. I said I couldn't do it because I wouldn't be able to trust myself after that. I said to myself, that's the way I figured it out, because I wanted to keep it. And I went home, I went across the street. No, I went to the bank, and I said, count the money. I knew the fellow there just from going in the bank. I said, count this money. He counts, it's $110. And I only took out my slip to take out money, and it was $100. And he gave me $10 too much, period. So I gave it to him. He said to me, I'll say that all honest people aren't dead yet.
And what year is this?
I didn't say anything.
What year was this?
Huh?
What year was this?
Year? Oh, a long time ago. When I first went down to, not long after I went down from Catskill.
Before A&S?
And I got, that was one of the first jobs I got.
Before Abraham and Strauss?
Huh?
Before Abraham and Strauss?
Yes.
Did you fall in love with Grandpa because he had the same name as the place that you worked at?
No. What kind of full name?
Abraham and Strauss.
Abraham and Strauss.
So you fell in love with
His
Abraham?
name is that. No.
You fell in love with Abraham?
I fell in love with we started to go with each other. I had a date with him, and he'd come and take me to the movies. And we had a soda after, and that continued on. he was going to study to be a doctor.
And when did you have sex?
Huh?
When did you have sex?
We didn't have sex then. What's the matter with you?
Until when?
I don't remember.
I mean, you're not telling, you're lying again, huh? Okay.
That was the first days of our knowing each other. But no, and he was going to school.
Who started it? Did you ask him?
I should remember if I asked him. I'm sure I didn't ask him. I'm sure he took my telephone number and he called me on the phone. And he'd make a date with me for Saturday night, and we'd go to the movies and we'd talk and we got acquainted. He was very naive. I knew more about different things than he did. And different things. I remember. I don't know. I told you something about it. I said, "Well, I'll teach you how to do it."
What?
Something I don't remember.
Cigarette smoking?
Huh?
Cigarette smoking.
Yeah, probably was.
And sex.
At that
sex
ti-
too?
No sex. We didn't talk about
You
sex
didn't teach
then.
him? You didn't teach him?
Huh?
You didn't teach him?
No, I didn't teach him anything about sex, and we didn't talk about it.
You didn't talk?
No.
You just did it.
Not then. After we've gone together a long time. We went together about 5 years.
So you waited like, what, 30, 40 years before you talked about it?
I don't remember now what I did then 50 years ago. What's the matter with you?
Next question.
Next
Do
question.
you remember any of the movies?
No. I don't remember.
Do you remember what kind of car he had?
Oh, he didn't have a car then. couldn't afford it.
After you were married.
He had a car before we were married,
Yeah.
but long afterwards, after he was working a while.
What did he have?
Well, he stopped. He stopped going to college, and he wanted because he wanted to get married to me. We were going to with each other for quite a while, and I wasn't too keen on the place I was living. She took a lot of money. $8 was a lot of money then to take for board, room and board. But the room we had was with her daughter. She had a daughter around my age, and we became friends. And we knew each other for many years.
In Brooklyn?
Were good. We were distant relatives, distant cousins. But I learned from them. They would teach me things, and I would teach them things. Some things I knew from living in the country, they didn't know. Things that you learn in the country is one thing. But if you're brought up in the city, you learn different things. You learn them if you go in the country. There's other things to learn. But I learned both things. I lived in the country, was brought up in the country, and then when I went down to the city, I had to learn about to go to New York, to go to Manhattan from where we lived in Greenpoint. Do you know where Greenpoint was? Well, that's where we lived. I couldn't
Greenpoint.
think it. Huh?
Greenpoint.
Greenpoint.
What train?
Huh?
What train did you take?
I don't know. From where we lived, we had to take we could walk to the train, and we had to take one train and another train if we wanted to go to Manhattan. It was quite a trip from where we lived.
J?
Then
L?
they moved.
Numbers or letters? Number trains? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No,
Letters, J, K, L.
it wasn't letters. It was names. I forget the name of the trains then. And then when they moved up to near, I can't remember the name of the area. But it was closer to them to where Abe lived. He was at his mother's.
Right.
So we moved there, and he used to come almost every night. He used to walk from where he lived to where I lived. And that's when we started going into New York, and he decided that he wanted to be a chemist. And so he went to He went to City College, and then he went into, I can't remember the name now.
Columbia. We have that already.
Columbia
Did you ever want to go to college?
Columbia University.
Did you ever want to go to college?
No. I did go to college when I was working. They had, if you wanted to further yourself, you could go to take this test, or whatever you call it, and you could, and you had to go to one of the colleges in New York at night. And I wanted to further myself there. I didn't want to be a sales clerk. I wanted to go to pick up things that I couldn't, that you learn and going to school.
And what did you learn?
School or college. If you wanted to be assistant buyer, say, so from a sales clerk, if you were ambitious and you wanted to further yourself money-wise and learning, you could take a course in the college, and we didn't have to pay for it. The firm where we worked, the store where we worked, paid for it. So I went, and I learned quite a bit from it. It's educational. So I worked myself up from being a sales clerk to assistant buyer.
What kind of stuff did you buy?
9 children's clothes.
Yeah? You have some stories about making some really good deals, don't you?
Huh?
You have some really good stories about making really shrewd, good deals.
About wearing shoes?
About making good deals. Shrewd deals.
Well, once I became assistant buyer, my buyer got sick, and she was very, very ambitious for me, and she wanted me to get ahead. I was a sales clerk. You have to learn different things, and that's why I went to that college after I was. No, I wasn't assistant buyer then. That was when I was working there too. But this was another thing that I was taking up. I did a lot of things in my lifetime that a lot of people didn't bother doing, and I wanted to educate myself in any way I could.
Right. Don't you have stories about making big purchases for A&S?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, when I was first acting assistant buyer, and then I became assistant buyer. After that, if you stayed there long enough, you probably could become a buyer. But when the buyer got sick, and I had to take her place. So I had to go and buy for the department, go to the manufacturers. I never did it before. And I had to make out the only thing I had experience working with this assistant buyer who got sick. See? So I was like next to her. She couldn't, when she'd go to New York, I would take her place in the department, but I never got the honor of being assistant buyer at that time. But I do the work, and in that, because she was sick, and she had a disease that she couldn't get better, and she had been married. Her husband died, and she adopted a little boy. I never could find out. I think she died eventually, and this little boy that she had adopted, I think her sisters, she had a couple sisters, and they brought up the little boy, And of course, after that, I mean, I was out. I don't know what happened. But I'm sure they took good care of this little boy, and he probably had an education and all. But this buyer, she was, she liked me, and I wasn't afraid to do things. And I wanted to get ahead very badly because I wanted the money. I needed the money. So one day, I tried to do things that was outstanding that, that other people didn't do. There wasn't a chair in the department at that time. Now, you would go into a store, the girls to wait on you do you a favor. But then, it was just the opposite. And you couldn't even sit down during the day. And when we would have, you see, now, if you go in on the first floor into a department store, you'll find, like us, we would have buy up 50, 100 dozen dresses to sell for $1. But you had to go to the manufacturer who would bother making up dresses to sell for $1 a piece. But we would buy a lot. And we'd have to we'd buy 50 dozen or 100 dozen, which is a whole lot. But then we'd get a table on the main floor. See, you go into a store now, I'm sure that do the same thing, and you'll find pocketbooks on one table, and you'll find men's shoes or men's shirts on another table. Well, the different departments would bring their things down if they got permission, if they had something that you could sell a lot of. See, so dollar dresses at that time, children's dresses, children's size from 3 to 6X, that's like a 7. If you could get a manufacturer to make up 50 dozen dresses to sell for $1, then you get a table on the main floor to sell a lot, because a lot of people go on the main floor and don't even go up to the different apartments. So I'd get a table for the main floor, and we'd have to fill it up sell a lot of dresses or things, whatever, little boy suits, little cotton suits, and things that the people, a lot of people would buy, that couldn't afford to buy $3-4 dresses or $5 dresses. But dollar dresses they could buy. But we had to get the manufacturers to make them up and buy a whole lot of them. Like 50 dozen dresses, a whole lot of dresses. So we'd have to take down, we had to fill up the counter on the main floor. If you got permission, if you had something to put down there, like the dollar dresses. So you have to get permission to use the table. We'd have to pay for the table. You don't know, in a department store, everything you do you have to pay for. You don't pay out your own money, but it goes on the books. And if you wanted a table, it would cost you so much money, and it would come out of eventually at the end of the year, all these things that you use up like a table, it came off the money that you brought to the store, you brought into the store. So I would have to, and then you'd have to take the stuff down there yourself. So I would carry down 100 dresses at a time, and we couldn't use the elevator that the regular people used. The regular people there were certain elevators at the end of the store that if the people that worked there how to use an elevator, though. They couldn't, if you were gonna come and buy something there, you could use any elevator you wanted to. If you wanted to go up to the fifth floor, say, to buy something, you go in any elevator. But when we had to bring down things like that for the main floor, we had to see to it that we got somebody to take them down, or you'd have to take them down yourself. So I was taking, when my bar got so sick, I was doing all that. I was going to New York and buying things and selling them, and take the amounts that the people made every day selling. I was always at the head, even when I did other work. They hated me.
Who
The
made-
girls disliked me because I always had the highest amount. I had customers that I could, if that lived out in Long Island, before they had stores out in Long Island, people lived there and they had money and they wanted to get nice things for the children. They'd have to come in on the train, and they had to pay money then. Now I don't think they have to pay anything, but they had to pay then, and you'd have to bring down, see to it that there was always the sizes on the main floor, and you'd have to, I'd had, took down dozens of dresses down there on the main floor, and we'd sell maybe $100 worth of dollar dresses in a day. That's extra money for your department.
So what about your customers in Long Island? What about them?
Well, they would, I would know them. I would have their name and address and their charge. And if I got in dresses, good dresses, that sold for $5, $6, even $10, and a lot of stores. And I would buy them, thinking of who would I could send them to. And I'd have the biggest amounts every day, besides doing other work. Worked
So
hard.
what'd you do? Send them without
I'd send
asking
them. If they wanted them, they'd keep them, and if they didn't, they could send it back.
And how many times did they usually keep them?
Oh, they usually kept, when I sent them out, they keep them. And see, and that one of the reasons I used to have the highest amounts. And then I became assistant buyer.
Oh, that was before you were an assistant. That's when you were a sales clerk.
I was just I was going to be assistant buyer, but the buyer got sick. I told you.
So you went directly.
And died.
You went directly to buyer.
No, I didn't go to. They didn't make me buyer. They brought in another one person to be buyer over me. I was going to quit, but they wouldn't let me. So I stayed on. I knew that I met Abe, and I knew that I wasn't going to stay there too long. So I stayed on.
And then the Depression hit.
Huh?
The Depression hit. The Great Depression hit. The stock market crashed, and it didn't matter. No.
I don't know what you're saying.
1929, there was a stock market crash,
Yeah,
right?
the crash.
And what happened to the department store? People
Well,
stopped buying, right?
That you just had to work and know who to buy from and who would sell you certain things
So
that you needed.
Everything kept on going. The business kept on running.
The
And
stores.
you kept on buying.
the
You kept on
stores-
buying, and
Did you ever hear? You might have heard of it a couple of times, of when a department store went out of business. They kept going. Things so there they still keep going. But I learned a lot. I was afraid to go into New York. I didn't know my way around. I had to ask people, where's such and such a street? And I'd have to go up to the buyers, and pick out what I wanted for the department. And I'd order 50 dozen dresses at a time, and to know what sizes to get. So you shouldn't get stuck with one size.
Did you ever get stuck?
No,
Never.
no.
And the other.
Then the buyer died, and they made me assistant buyer. And they should have made me buyer, but even in a department store, you have to have somebody there that can talk for you if you want to get ahead. It was rough years ago. Now you find a chair and the girls aren't doing anything. They sit down, and, you know. No, years ago, I used to take, you know, people would buy a dress and not want to keep it so they could, uh, especially if they had a charge account. You could always return it, but it become wrinkled, and I'd pick out maybe 15 dresses that were wrinkled, and I'd take them in the place where they had irons, and I'd iron them out
Yourself.
myself.
Put them back.
Bring them back, and they'd sell. You couldn't sell a dress that was all wrinkled up, see? And nobody told me to do it. But things like that, I learned by myself what to do, and that's how I became system buyer. They knew that I was smarter than most of the girls that were working there. My salary. See, it was just something that you did on your own, that you wanted to get places, and I wanted to get places badly, and I did. I became system buyer. But then when I met Abe, and Abe stopped going, he wasn't keen on being a doctor. He didn't want to. His friend became a doctor, but he wanted to work so we could get married. And if she was going to be a doctor, it would take years before we could get married. Even then, now too. So I worked very hard in that store, but then when we moved away and we came to, let's see, where was it that?
Baltimore.
Huh?
Baltimore.
I forget where we were then.
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was in Baltimore. And I wanted to work. Abe was working, and I couldn't get pregnant, so I had plenty of time on my hands. So I went down to the store, to one of the department stores there, and I told them, I made out,
Resume?
you know, what I wanted to be a sales girl. I didn't want to have to have the responsibility of being an assistant buyer, and there is a responsibility.
What?
Even now. So I had to write it. You had to write it all down, and they had it. One day, they take that, and they wanted me to be assistant buyer, and I didn't want it, because then I'd have to be down there early in the morning and come home late, the last one at night. So I didn't want that responsibility then, because I was doing it just to make some extra money.
I have some friends who work at a department store. What advice could you give them?
What
advice could you give them to make their department store better?
Well, anything that you can do that you feel would bring in more money. I decided that those dresses couldn't sell, and in order for them to sell, they'd have to be marked down. Say you sold a dress for $5, and we'd have to, a wrinkled dress, somebody that couldn't afford it and could afford $3, your department loses that $2, and that comes off of the money that you don't bring into the department. The buyer. The buyers usually the system buyers.
What about display?
Huh?
What about display?
The strike?
Displays.
Display? You were responsible for what you'd pick out. If they come and told us that you're going to have a window displayed. We should decide what we wanted to put in the window to make, so we had to pick out, say I wanted dresses. I had a lot of dresses and good dresses, that was a good value, and they would sell if you displayed them. You go in now in the men's department, say, and they have say shirts on sale. The buyer has to get shirts that's going to sell for a cheaper price than that you would have to have in the department. So, all